Hello YouTube, this is Dr. Ronald W. Satz, founder and chair of the International Society of Unified Science and president of TransPower Corporation, a commercial and custom software manufacturing and certified systems engineering company. I work as a systems and mechanical engineer, although I'm doing some electrical engineering at the moment, and also as a theoretical physicist. Today, as usual, discussing the reciprocal system and how it compares to conventional physics and astrophysics. So I have one topic today, and let's show this. This is a book, The Cosmos, Astronomy in the New Millennium, by J.M. Pasikoff and Alex Filipenko, 4th edition. So I'm going to go over my review of this work from my Amazon review of it, and I give the title here, Lovely Coffee Table Book for Community College and Liberal Arts Majors. And I'll read this and I'll annotate this as I go along, as usual with most of my screencasts. This comes from my theoretical physics blog site as well. I'm making my blog posts available to YouTube now. So I say here, this work is an up-to-date discursive, which means non-mathematical, treatment of contemporary astronomy. It can serve as a supplementary text for scientists and engineers because it contains much new observational information from recent space missions and from telescopes using adaptive optics. So here are the list of chapter titles in this book. 1, A Grand Tour of the Heavens. 2, Light, Matter, and Energy Powering the Universe. 3, Light and Telescopes Extending Our Senses. 4, Observing the Stars and Planets, Clockwork of the Universe. 5, Gravitation and Motion, the Early History of Astronomy. 6, The Terrestrial Planets, Earth, Moon, and Their Relatives. 7, The Jovian Planets, that's Jupiter and Saturn, etc. Windswept Planets. 8, Pluto, Comets, and Space Debris. 9, Our Solar System and Others. 10, Our Star, the Sun. 11, Stars, Distant Suns. 12, How the Stars Shine, Cosmic Furnaces. 13, The Death of Stars, Recycling. 14, Black Holes, The End of Space and Time. 15, The Milky Way, Our Home in the Universe. 16, A Universe of Galaxies. 17, Quasars and Active Galaxies. 18, Cosmology, The Birth and Life of the Cosmos. 19, In the Beginning. And the last chapter, 20, Life in the Universe. There are 7 appendices, a bibliography and a fine glossary and a very detailed index in this work. Okay, continuing with my review here. The authors are excellent observers and educators. However, they are not theoreticians. And it's important to understand they don't claim to be theoreticians. They present the conventional consensus theories with little in the way of critical analysis. So I'm not going to beat up on these authors because of this. You'll find the same nonsense in most other books in astronomy and astrophysics. To help the reader of this review understand that the conventional theories are not on a very solid ground, I'm going to give a brief critique of them here. And my critique is numbered, so here we go. Pay close attention. Number 1, space is flat, Euclidean. There is no sign of curved space, or even how matter could curve space. But the authors tell us that, nonetheless, general relativity, and most other gravitational theories, by the way, general relativity is correct, or mostly correct. They do, however, mention that quantum mechanics and general relativity are in conflict, so obviously, one or both of them are wrong. 2, the so-called Big Bang is a singularity in which, allegedly, all the matter and energy of the universe are concentrated into a dot smaller than an atom. This is utter nonsense. Of course, singularities cannot exist in the real world. This concentration of matter and energy breaks every known physical law. But with the discovery of the acceleration of the universe, even the Big Bang is not enough for the conventional theorists. They now postulate the existence of, quote, dark energy to explain this. The reciprocal system theory, obviously not discussed by the authors, states that the space-time progression is the cause of the expansion. The acceleration is caused by the reduction of the opposing gravitational force by the inverse square law. Number 3. The cosmic microwave background radiation is supposedly, according to the conventional theoreticians, the afterglow of the Big Bang. This is cited by the authors as the main support for this theory, but this radiation could equally well be the diffuse isotopic radiation coming from another region of the universe. In the reciprocal system of theory, this region is the cosmic sector, or the inverse sector. It is localized in time, not space. And of course, in the reciprocal system, space and time are 100% symmetrically related. Okay, now, number 4. Radiation is stated as being electromagnetic, but light does not cause any changes in other known electric or magnetic fields. Also, conventional theory mixes up waves and particles. Number 5. Atoms are allegedly composed of subatoms, and subatoms are allegedly composed of quarks having fractional charges. But no one has seen a fractional charge. Also, if I put a negatively charged subatom next to a positively charged subatom, the one doesn't orbit the other. The charges neutralize themselves. Also, if I put two positively charged subatoms next to one another, they don't attract one another. They repel one another. The nuclear atom is therefore a bizarre mythology, which has been foisted on us for over 100 years. The reality is that atoms and subatoms are rotating photons with quantized spins. And these quantized spins are around actual objective axes. The nuclear atom is therefore a bizarre mythology which has been forced... excuse me, I already said that. But it's worth repeating. The nuclear atom is therefore a bizarre mythology which has been foisted on us for 100 years. Now, spectra result from changes in the discrete translational motion of atoms, not from electrons jumping from one orbit to another. Heck, the spectroscopists do not even accept the cloud theory of electrons touted by other scientists. How many more decades is this nonsensical theory going to be taught? Now, number 6. The authors assert, as in other books, that fusion must be the source of energy in stars. However, the supposed temperature in solar cores is not high enough to overcome the Coulombic barrier. More advanced texts assert that the protons must, quote, tunnel through the barrier to fuse, but this is just another quantum mechanics myth. The reality is that stars are gravitationally segregated. The more massive atoms are in the core, the actual source of energy in stars is fission of these heavy elements. Yes, I said fission, not fusion. Now, number 7. The authors assert that heavy elements result from fusion in the core or from supernovae, not from forming outside the core. However, there's a very dense neutrino flux throughout the universe. Neutrinos usually pass through matter, but sometimes they are absorbed, causing an increase in atomic number of the absorbing element. Heavy elements are therefore created in intergalactic and interstellar space, not in stellar cores where they are destroyed to create the energy we all see with. Iron, yes, iron has been found in intergalactic space. Now, number 8. Globular clusters continue to be formed in intergalactic space, contrary to the assertions of conventional theorists. They are therefore young, not old. They are eventually merged into galaxies, changing into galactic clusters, and these are therefore old, not young. Protoglobular clusters are the sources of the alleged dark matter in the universe, and specifically in the halo around the galaxy. And in the star-forming regions, it's really basically just immature globular clusters being captured by the galaxy. Now, number 9. Globular clusters sometimes combine to form small elliptical galaxies. These can combine to form spiral or larger elliptical galaxies. Present-day theory doesn't distinguish very well between small and large elliptical galaxies, which should really be called spheroidal galaxies. Those are those really giant galaxies. Number 10. The spiral arms of spiral galaxies do wind up over time. There's no winding problem. When two spiral galaxies combine, the result is an elliptical galaxy. Incidentally, Kepler's laws do not apply to galaxies. The spirals clearly indicate that we are dealing with the equivalent of heterogeneous rotating fluid structures. And I might add here that that's similar to what you see in your toilet bowl when you flush. Okay, number 11. Supernovae type 1 are not from exploding white dwarfs, which have only novas, or novae. They are exploding O and B and Wolf-Rayet stars. The remnant is a white dwarf. Supernovae type 2 result from explosions of all kinds of stars when they reach the age limit, as opposed to just the temperature and mass limit. The bolometric magnitude is larger than that for type 1 stars, even though sometimes the optical magnitude might be less. The remnant is a pulsar. Often the pulsar moves out of the explosion zone. Pulsars are not neutron stars. Neutrons are not stable. They decay in 12 to 15 minutes. Pulsars are, that's a half-life. Pulsars are simply the white dwarf stars, with an additional translational motion away from the explosion site. And most of them eventually leave the galaxy. Some come back down, but most leave. And by the way, when they come back down, they emit X-rays. When they're leaving, they emit radio waves. Okay, now number 12. Just a few more here. Solar systems and binary stars, red giant plus white dwarf, are formed from supernovae, contrary to the conventional theory. If the explosion is powerful enough, a binary star system results, otherwise a solar system. The planets have most of the angular momentum because they are formed from the spinning iron-nickel core of the parent star. The new star comes from the gas and dust which exploded outward rather than inward. And that new star is first a red giant, and then it contracts to the main sequence, whereas the white dwarf expands back to the main sequence. Okay, so let's see. Number 13. Olber's paradox is resolved by there being a limit to the age of galaxies. At the limit, they explode, creating quasars, which, by the way, means that they're associated with disturbed galaxies, as the famous astronomer Houghton argued. Anyway, these eventually leave our sector for the cosmic sector. The quasars are not at cosmological distances. Their redshift is a function of the redshift of their associated peculiar galaxy. They cannot therefore be blue shifted. Quasars and pulsars and white dwarfs are compact because they are expanding in coordinate time, which is the opposite of expanding in the coordinate space. Eventually, white dwarfs come back to the main sequence. Eventually, red giants come back to the main sequence. This explains why Betelgeuse is shrinking, which is kind of funny. I read an article. The astronomers are confused as to why Betelgeuse is shrinking. Anyway, the so-called turn-off point on the HR diagram is actually a turn-in point. Pulsars, if ejected powerfully enough, leave our sector. Otherwise, they come back to the plane of the galaxy, generating X-rays, just like I said above. Okay, number 14, the last one. The authors admit that the one-way path to the heat death of the universe is, quote, depressing. Yeah, it's depressing. Fortunately, this is not the reality. The universe is cyclic. There is no heat death. There was no Big Bang. There's no heat death. The white dwarfs don't become black dwarfs. They come back to the main sequence. Our sector loses matter to the cosmic sector. The cosmic sector loses matter back to our sector, as indicated by the cosmic rays. There is complete balance. There is no net change of entropy. So we're not going down to a heat death here. In conclusion, you can purchase the author's book for an up-to-date treatment of current observations and the conventional theories. Just keep in mind that the reciprocal system is vastly superior. All right, that wraps up today. Study the reciprocal system and prove it for yourself. The simplest possible treatment is my work, The Mysterious Universe, available from Amazon and transpowercorp.com. Has all the concepts and illustrations in there. Now, if you want all the mathematics, obtain my software ebook, Existence and Interactions, a computational treatise of the reciprocal system, the true theory of everything. Thousands of equations, It's 711 pages in the PDF, 711 slides in the PowerPoint file. That'll keep you busy for months. When you're done with that, you can go on to my 2 database modules, the Reciprocal System Microcosmos database and the Reciprocal System Macrocosmos database. The 2 database modules do thousands and thousands of calculations with the reciprocal system, thus verifying the theory. So the reciprocal system is the true theory of the universe. Study it and prove it for yourself. And as usual, thanks for your attention.